Sorry about that. Realized that the video cuts off after 10 minutes, so this is video 2. So again, you were saying I was talking about the 4 boxes that were in the floor of the room above this one. So what those boxes allow me to do is when I'm down here on the fighting floor, as I'm fighting along and looting zombies and racking up all of the good gear, instead of having to pick and choose what things I want and figure out what's valuable, I can just take all of it, run over to one of these things, open it up, and dump everything into it from this floor, and then continue fighting down here. And then at the conclusion of the Horde Night or whatever it is that I'm doing, I can go back up here into the organization area, the loot room, open up the box from the floor, and take things out at my convenience and sort them all out into wherever it is that they go. So, this is, as I just mentioned, the fighting floor. This is really the kind of the meat of the tower. This is what this tower is all about. So, as you can tell, it's all protected. The zombies will fall all the way down from that plus 63 that we mentioned earlier to where you can see now negative 51, so they're falling over 100 meters, which means they're taking whatever the maximum fall damage is for the game. That will kill most of the weakest zombies in the game, but the stronger zombies, the cops, the ferals, radiated stuff, the big fat guys and fat women that run around, those will not be killed. They'll fall down and be in a stunned state. The cops actually will fall down and be fighting pretty much right away, although they have taken damage. And so that's what the rest of these defenses here are for. So you can see down here all of these wires running out there. That's more electric fence wiring. The posts are all covered by these floors here. I've got them all running under the flooring, and I use these little concrete plates to cover it up. So you can see that right here where you can see there's actually a block. That's the level of the block, and the concrete plates are sitting that little tiny distance above them. So technically this entire area I'm walking on right now is already used up by a block. But that's so I can hide the wiring, because I like to try and do that as much as possible. I power all of these with some generators that I can access this way, and this is where I can turn them on or refuel them or whatever. The generators are full of 600 level engines, because when I've got all of this stuff running, it requires quite a bit of power. So one of them will turn on the blade traps all the way around and the lighting for the interior of the pit. And the other one doesn't seem to do much other than what it's actually doing is electrifying all those wires. So zombies will fall, they'll hit the spikes, they get electrified, and if they crawl over towards you, which inevitably they will try to do, they will eventually get chopped up by the spikes. Or you can kill them if you want the kill, which I try to do myself. So that's the fighting floor. And that renders this area quite safe, because just about nothing can get through there, particularly if you're defending it. But then there's the other neat little room down here is my manufacturing room. Because I'm so deep underground, I can have as many heat sources as I want, literally as many as I want, without ever having to deal with any screamers, at least in 16.4, which is where we are now. Because we're so far underground and so far away from any legal spawn point for a screamer that screamers can never actually spawn on the map, and therefore you never get any. So this allows me to mass produce as much stuff as I want at any time. I can just fire up a forge, or all of the forges and all of these and all of the chem stations and everything all at once. I can have it all running. And of course I have to have a tree farm, which I have off in the distance from this location in order to get the wood for all of this, but it ends up being, mass production is the way to go if you want to build really big constructions like this one. I have a little water source that I keep over here. I kind of made it look like a little jacuzzi or tub or whatever you want to call it, just because might as well. Again, just like the room above, the storage room, all of these textures you see here are paint, with the exception that I did actually get a sink and some ovens and things like that. But these are actually concrete walls, not brick, or they're reinforced concrete. Same thing with the floors here, but I wanted to give it a little bit of a different look, so that's what I did. This, however, is what it appears to be. This is a steel column that goes from bedrock all the way up to the upper ground level entrance. Just like if you look out here, these 4 columns are the same. They're steel all the way up. Which brings us to this room, which is the repair room for the spikes. You don't really need this, it turns out, because you can actually stand in that interior room and reach all the way out to the farthest spike to repair it. But if you needed to, or sometimes the ones that are in the corners are kind of hard to get, you can come down in here and repair the spikes from below. This is what's called a Z-Gate room for servers that use the Z-Gate add-on. More on that later, but the purpose of this is to allow people to gate into my tower, and then I can vet who it is that I want to let through and who is just going to get stuck in the cell and have to leave. You never want to set it up so that they gate into the protected area of your base, because then you have no control over who has access to it. So, and again, I apologize for those of you who don't know what Z-Gates are, who don't play with that particular add-on. It does not make the server modded. It still shows up on the unmodded list, but more on that later. And then the final feature is my tunnel access and the outer ring access. I don't know if you were able to see it from when I was up on the fighting floor, but if you look, you can see that there is actually an outer ring there. There is a room that goes all the way around beyond the spike pit. I don't usually fight out there, but if you wanted to, you could. Also, it's useful to be able to get over there sometimes to do repairs to the distant edges, or to get zombies that get stuck in the corners over there if you want to loot them. And there has to be a way to get there, so you use that room that I just showed you. You can come up and you come through that door right there in order to get to that outer ring. But then, at the same time, I also have tunnels. I mentioned I had a tunnel that ran all the way to the distant trader. This is that tunnel. It is concreted and lit by candles all the way down there. I won't bore you by running there, but it goes well beyond that into a nearby city, or not into the city, but near to the city, and beyond that to an area where I can branch out from to do mining in areas like the desert or the burnt forest to get some of the resources that spawn in that area, particularly shale from the desert. But like I said, no point in running all the way down there and boring you with running through a tunnel. Suffice it to say, however, though, that that is probably more blocks that I've used to place to do this tunnel than I did for the actual tower, despite the fact that the tower is well over 100 meters tall, and of course all made out of concrete and steel. So that's my tower, recorded for posterity's sake. I'm going to cut off here because otherwise the timer is going to run out on me. I will try to do another video at some point regarding the server I play on, Armlight Gamers Jericho, and the rules therein, but I won't mix that up with this video so that you don't have to be bored listening to stuff if you're only here to see the tower. Thanks a lot.